Hey everyone, and welcome back to Country Music Made Me. Thank you so much for joining us once again. On today's show, we are excited to welcome Kimberly Kelly. Now, Kimberly's journey in Nashville began 8 years ago, but it began many years before that within the Texas music scene. Throughout the years, she's been riding and navigating the highs and lows of the industry, and it all came together last year when she signed her very first record deal with Toby Keith and Show Dog Nashville. She released her sophomore album, I'll Tell You What's Gonna Happen, earlier in July, and she is super excited to finally get the opportunity to introduce herself to the world. So please enjoy our conversation with Kimberly Kelly. Take me back and paint me a picture of I think maybe 3-4-year-old girl standing in front of the family fireplace, giving what appeared to be musical performances.
Did you see that or read that somewhere?
I saw a photo.
I was like, you're reading my mind. My sister and I, because I have an older sister and she's also in music. We just used to stand on the fireplace and sing Garth Brooks songs. But I feel like every kid does that. I didn't know. I felt like about the time Leanne Rimes came out and everybody was making a big deal about her, I felt like I could sing along with her, but what did I know? But it felt like, obviously now I know like I had a good ear, but I didn't realize that I had a good ear at the time. I felt like I could keep up with her, but I still didn't really sing. I did like a talent show here and there. And then when I was in high school, I told my mom, I said, I think I can sing. And she said, okay, we'll sing. And I made her turn around backwards and close her eyes. And I sang, and she was like, what do I do with this? And long story short, I ended up going to the community college in Waco, and they have a commercial music program.
Right. And before we get there, I don't want to race too far ahead, because we do have some things to talk about before getting to community college.
Okay.
And so one of the first things I want to talk about also within your singing is your pageant days.
Oh, God.
I believe that you were the Heart of Texas Fair and Rodeo sweetheart at one point.
Yes. Okay. What that is in the city of Waco. You're getting some good questions here, different ones. So in the city of Waco, they have what's called the Heart of Texas Fair and Rodeo sweethearts. And it's just 2 or 3 girls from different schools around the surrounding areas. And it's not necessarily, it's not a pageant. You go through like an interview process, and what you do is you represent the fair and rodeos throughout the year. So you may go do different charity events, but then during the rodeo, we had a uniform and a sash, and you passed out the trophies for the mutton busting, which are the kids who ride on the sheep. You may pass out programs. You're just kind of there to help guide people who might have questions.
Right.
The only pageants I was ever in, there was Christmas in the Country in Wariner every year. And I think I did that a few times until I won it. So I didn't win it the first year. It's like there's only so many girls in the arena, and I think each of us go through it until we at least win it once. But yeah.
That's awesome. And within this singing, I saw you talk about in elementary school, Santa's Holiday Hoedown.
Yes.
And you sang Silver Bells. Was that sort of your first time singing in front of people?
Probably, yes, as an actual part in something. It was called CE, so creative enrichment, or like the gifted class. And every year they put on a Christmas pageant. And that one was, I still remember the song, We're Going to Branson. And something was going on in Branson, something was falling apart, and they had to pull it back together. Very Lifetime movie-ish type of thing. But I played a part called Dolly Holiday. And so, yes, I had to sing Silver Bells. And I was devastated because I sang the first verse twice. But obviously no one knew. But still to this day, I'm like, if I ever get to make a Christmas record, I have to sing Silver Bells so I can redeem myself. But before that, I had been in one talent show in second grade, and I sang "That's What I Like About You" by Trisha Yearwood.
Oh,
But yeah,
nice.
I feel like my first performance, so to speak, would probably be that play as Dolly Holiday.
Right. And so you mentioned when you first sang to your mom, sort of having her turn around. And so when you were performing at a young age in front of people, were you confident about that?
I guess so, maybe because I was in a cast and I wasn't the only one standing up there. And now thinking about it also, when you do a performance like that, it's dark because the
Right.
lights are shining on you. I still kind of joke about that now. You work your whole life to get into the big lights. And then when you get in the big lights, you can't see anything. Everybody's dark. So probably that, it's like somebody saying, putting you on the spot, sing something for me. It's just totally different when you're in a situation like that versus when you're up standing with other people.
Right. Yeah.
Mhm.
And now within your musical background, within your family, I saw that a couple of years ago, you were doing a fundraising campaign to be able to do your album, and you found out about your granddad's band, Sterling Lee and the Hearts. Now, I was wondering, was that the first time you had ever heard about that? Was it ever, was it a thing within the family that you knew about as you were growing up?
Definitely knew about it. My grandparents owned a bar back in the day.
Oh, okay.
And my grandma actually worked at it. But my papa, he sang all the time, recorded records, had a band, played, and he actually, my dad and my uncles also played in a band. And a funny story, they had a pool table, and at one point they were supposed to be practicing, and my grandpa came home and he had bought a new pool table, but he didn't tell them that. I guess the old one, the other one was old or something. And he got on to them about practicing and made them carry that one out and haul it to the ditch and lit it on fire to
Oh,
try to be like, you should be practicing. But
right.
the whole time he had a whole other pool table. He was just trying to put the fear of God in them.
Oh, that's hilarious.
I know, isn't it? But yeah, no, my dad, my uncles, my grandpa, very much a history of music, and we all knew about it. But in doing that campaign, different stories about my grandpa started to come out, just different instances. Like, I think maybe that one was one of his first recordings. He had gone down to Austin to see his cousin or something, and he needed $100, and they gave him $100, and that helped with the project. So just different, it's specific stories started to kind of come out when I was sharing all of that.
Oh, okay. And now your dad, I believe, unfortunately, you lost him in January. Now,
Yes.
seeing pictures of him on social media, he just looked like a very hardworking man
Oh, for
who
sure.
maybe didn't enjoy the spotlight. I'm surprised that you mentioned his musical background, because I didn't see him as someone who necessarily would be up on the stage and be in the spotlight. So just talk about him and what kind of man he was.
Um, you know, you're I think you're right. He was a hard worker. Um, Even with like my sister and I, he's a man of few words. You would be like, hey dad, are you listening? And then he would repeat everything you just said for the last 10 minutes. But then when he wasn't around us, everybody who would come to his shop, he was a mechanic, and he had a shop at his house, and people were there all the time. Even outside of his regular job, they would say he wouldn't let us leave without playing the latest song from y'all or anything like that. But I will say, I obviously didn't know him when he was younger because I wasn't alive, but
Right. Yeah.
he would get in these moments of where he's telling a story, and he absolutely loved being the center of attention. He was a 100% storyteller and a comedian if he wasn't working. So I imagine back in the day when he was a little rowdier, he probably didn't mind being the center of attention. But with, I guess, the way we saw him, he was more wanting to turn the spotlight on us.
Right. Yeah. And another big influence within your family is your Granny Kelly.
Granny Kelly.
Now talk about her. She's someone who I believe has influenced you quite a bit along this journey.
Yes, she, having been married to my papa, she's the matriarch of our family. She just has lived so much life and she's still kicking. She just turned 80. She might have turned 84 in January. I can't remember.
Awesome.
83 or 84. And she's just like a pillar of strength, but she wasn't necessarily a musical influence, but she was married to my papa. She worked in the bars. She lived that life with him. She had children who were in the music. She's just constantly, I even told her one time, I was so afraid. I was like, what if I don't get to where I want to be, or what if I don't get to play the Opry, and you're not still here? And she goes, honey, I know what you're capable of. And so it's just hearing her say that, it's like, okay, if she ends up passing or anything like that, it's like knowing that they know where you're going, where you're headed. It's like, I can keep going, So, and that's what she would want if she were to pass. And absolutely, that's what our dad would want. So
that's amazing. And within your musical journey, your new album, there's a lot of fiddle going on that album. And within the world of fiddling, I wanted to ask you about Fiddle Camp when you were younger and what that meant. And also, do you still play? Can you still play?
I learned the fiddle when I went to community college. At the college, one of the instructors was Dick Gimble, and his dad is Johnny Gimble, who's also passed. But Johnny played with Bob Wills, who is the king of Western swing in Texas. And I wanted to play fiddle. And he said, well, while you're learning that, why don't we also learn the mandolin? Because it'll help you with the frets on the fiddle.
Okay.
And so I took fiddle lessons, and then they're actually the ones that took me to Fiddle Camp with them.
Oh, okay.
But I can play a few things, but I am by no means a fiddler. I can bust it out and fiddle a few things, but nobody's calling me to play with them on the road or in the studio or anything. I kind of took to the mandolin. But again, I'm no Bill Monroe either. The solos that I learned, I memorized. And they're usually the melody. I play solos like Willie Nelson.
Right. Yeah. And so when you went off to community college, where was your mindset? Did you have a mindset of being a musician at that point?
I didn't think that you could go to school for music. I didn't understand that. And I actually went to Baylor University for a semester. And then at Christmas, I said, I don't want to go back. My mom was working at McLennan Community College and said, you need to come over here. They have a commercial music program. They have a country band, songwriting classes, all these different things. And so, being from Texas and seeing people just playing shows at fairs and festivals and bars, I thought that was what you did, but I guess I just didn't actually know the step to get there. But going to college for it, I met the guys who ended up being in my band. I learned theory. I was in the country band, which we went out and played a couple shows during the semester. So then that was the natural step. Once I graduated, I just started booking shows because I was like, I'm ready. It was kind of like my homework, so to speak.
So did you know where you were headed? When you started booking shows, did you just sort of look at who had come before you and say, that's what they did, so that's what I'm going to do?
Yeah, I just thought, I want a record deal. I thought I'm going to play in Texas and I'll just get real popular and then someone will discover me. I'm laughing. But yeah, and then also the contests were getting real popular at that time. There was Nashville Star. So I was just doing all different kinds of things, whatever I could do to try to just put myself out there.
Right. And there was a moment, your new album sort of became a ode to Billy Joe Shaver, who you've had a chance to get to know very well over the years throughout your journey. Now, there was a moment, I believe it was around 2005, that he pulled you up on stage at one of
Yeah.
his shows to play mandolin. Now, where did that fit into this journey? Was that during college, after, before?
It was right at the end of college.
Okay.
I was over at a friend's house with Emily Gimbel. So it was Dick Gimbel, the instructor. He also had a daughter who's my age, and we were in the program together. It was her, myself, and another friend of ours, and we were making work tapes, which would turn out to be my first record.
Okay.
Because that was also, it was like, well, if I'm going to go play these bars and festivals and fairs, I got to make a record. So,
Right.
I had learned all the tools in college, how to write a song, finish a song completely. So I was ready, you know? And we were over at this guy's house making these work tapes, and a family friend called and said, "Where are you? What are you doing? I have Billy Joe Shaver with me." And I didn't know who he was at the time, which I think is what enabled me to have the type of relationship I did have with him, because I might have been starstruck and it would have been a totally different story.
Right. Yeah.
But she brought him over to the house, and I played him a song, and he was like, "Well, yep, that's good." He's like, "All right, I'll be in touch." And so this was a Tuesday. That evening, Debbie, the family friend, she said, "Girl, I've got the CD and he's marked all over it, songs you need to learn by Saturday." So I went back to school the next day, and I was like, "Drop everything. Y'all teach me how to learn because one of the songs was just a mandolin. And I'd only been playing the mandolin for a couple of years at that point. So Dick Gimbel, he really taught me that lick really well, and I was ready by Saturday to play at Antone's with him. And so, that also, he was kind of the first person outside of my family, the college instructors, who kind of said, "Hey, a well-known, like a artist, well established," who said, put their stamp on me and said, "This girl has what it takes," so, and I hadn't even really thought of it that way until we started doing this project. And my husband said that he was like, he really kind of was the first person to, like, outside of your own circle, who had become something, to be like, "This girl's good,"
Right.
so.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was at the end of college.
Okay. And then the journey with your sister, it feels like that was sort of maybe your first dip into Nashville, was
Yes.
singing backup harmonies for your sister.
Mm-hmm.
Now talk about that journey with her. And did you grow up alongside her, sort of with that love of music, and both of you sort of knowing that it meant something more to you than other people maybe? Or did it not come until sort of your college days that you both realized, hey, this is really what we want to do?
My sister had always written poetry. And then she was just all the time, just my biggest fan. And she was working at a bar, and she kind of encouraged me to do it. She was working at a bar. She was singing along to the jukebox, and the band, they said, "Hey, you're really good. Will you get up and sing with us?" And she said, "Oh no, you need my sister to sing." And so this was when I was in college, and she said, "Come sing with this band." And I was still kind of bashful at the time. I said, "No, I'll do it if you do it." And she hadn't even really sang. And so we both did it. And then she found her voice in it through that. And she ended up going through the commercial music program also. But she's always
Okay.
had more of like a country rock edge. And I've always been more of a traditionalist. And then we both ended up with our own separate careers in Texas. She was in a duo, and then I think she went solo for a minute. And then I was over here doing my own thing. And then she ran into a songwriter who brought her up to Nashville. And then she ended up getting pitched for a record deal.
Okay.
And then I was in grad school. And when I finished grad school, it was at the perfect time. She said, "Hey, I signed this deal. Why don't you come up and sing harmony with me while I'm on the road?" So no, we did not grow up thinking that this is where we would be.
Wow. And so what is that experience like, of sort of coming up with her and you both doing this? At first, when she was signing that record deal and maybe taking the steps before you of what you saw for your life, was there any resentment there, or was it always a supportive thing?
100% sibling rivalry. A healthy dose of it, because you're trying to claw your way up, and it's an interesting circumstance to be with a sibling, I mean, and you're so close, but yet you still feel so far away from it.
Right. Yeah.
But it ended up being the best experience because, and when I say sibling rivalry, I mean, we're sibling. I mean, there's going to be, we don't hate each other. We love each other. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's one of those, I would absolutely do anything in the world for her and her for me too. But yeah, that's natural. I think anybody feels that way. But through that experience, I was able to become an even more confident performer because I was in the background and I didn't have a heavy job while I was on the road with her. I just had a few lines I needed to sing. She was carrying the weight. So I got to watch these enormous crowds follow her and be willing to go anywhere that she wanted to take them. And so when it got back to the point where I was doing my own shows again, I had in the back of my mind, like, these people aren't waiting for me to fail. They're here to have a good time. So the nervousness kind of subsided.
Okay.
And I wouldn't have been able to have taken that perspective if I hadn't been singing backup for her, because you don't get to watch a crowd from that angle in any other way,
Right. Yeah.
But she 100% right now is my go-to as far as, what was this like for you coming up? It's just, I kind of have different expectations going into my record deal, her having already had one, things to get super excited about and things you just kind of take in stride. Not everybody gets that either. And we're not the first siblings to do it. You've got Loretta Lynn, Crystal Gale, the Mandrell sisters. I mean, it's really neat. And how many families can say that they've had two of their kids in the same family sign record deals? It's kind of incredible.
Exactly. And so when did you make the official move to Nashville?
8 years ago. 10 years ago, I was going back and forth on the road with my sister. And then I ended up moving full-time 2 years after that.
Oh, okay. And so I saw that your first full band show was a showcase at 12th and Porter in October of 2014. So at that point, that would have been right around when you moved there. What were your expectations as an artist at that moment? Do you remember?
That I had been working with these people and written all these songs, and I was about to get pitched and I was going to get a record deal. I've been here a couple of years back and forth. I'm writing with these really great people. I've got some great songs and I'm just the next best thing,
And how long does it take to come down from that?
I mean, I guess it depends on everybody's journey, but really, it don't take long at all because within the next 2 weeks, you're not signing a record deal.
But do you think, like, even if you do sign a record deal, it really feels like within this career, because you're always looking to what's next, even if you do take those steps, sometimes you can still feel let down at the end of the day, 100%, right?
100%. Yes. I feel like it's constant ebbs and flows. I mean, there's even times now that I've signed my deal that you feel that way. But I think what's helped me not get too wrapped up in that is I worked my speech pathology job the whole time I was up here. So, I had something else that took enough of my attention that I couldn't worry constantly.
And Aaron Enderlin, I wanted to talk about her because she has been a big supporter for you along this journey. Just talk about your relationship with her and how important it has been.
Erin was on my list of people that I would love to write with. And then I got to town, and a few years later, she came up to me at a writer's round and was like, I think you're so good. And I'm going, oh my gosh, Aaron Enderlin is telling me that, And we just started writing and became good friends and played shows together. And she has such a unique story, and she's such an incredible songwriter, and she loves the history of country music. We we're just two kindred country music spirits. And yeah, I love her. She's gone through the trenches separate from me. We've gone through some together, and that's what happens. I think when you're here long enough, you start to find your tribe, and she is absolutely part of my tribe. She is. I respect her so much as a songwriter, and I know so many other people respect her, and to know that she thinks that of me is really encouraging.
And she has stories for days that she can tell about all the amazing experiences that she has had within this career.
Yes.
Now, I know that for you, you have had the opportunity to enjoy in some of those amazing experiences. So what is that like to see someone like that who, like, I think it's through hard work that she is able to have all these amazing experiences. So does that really help elevate you in seeing, wow, look at what she's doing and how hard she's working? I have to do that.
You know what? That's a really good way of putting it. She just hasn't quit. So, you're asking me, I like to say I'd quit, but I probably wouldn't quit. I'm so proud of her now that you're like, I love her so much. She doesn't. She is just incredible. And I think those are the people that carry the tradition of country music along, the ones that just eat, sleep, and breathe it.
And you're never quit. I mean, 2017, you want to record an album. And so you set up a crowdfunding campaign. Now, what was that experience like as an artist in setting that up and not knowing what's going to happen? Like, I don't know if I'm going to raise this money. And you did raise it in the end. But what was your thought going through that if you didn't raise enough money?
Well, I chose the one that you get to keep whatever you raised.
Oh, okay.
It's called Indiegogo. I just had reached the point where I thought, I love country music and I want to make some more, and I'm just going for it. And enough people had done them at that time that I wasn't afraid to do it. And then I had some people around me who were like, just do it, you'll need it. And I worked hard. I mean, I messaged everybody, posted about it every day. But yeah, it's scary. And also it's humbling because you put yourself out on a limb and you think, if I don't, it's going to be so embarrassing. But like, more people want you to succeed, and they're just busy. They just might not see what you're doing every day.
Right. Yeah.
So I learned that through that experience, because I reached out to so many people and they're like, don't quit, keep going. We're so proud of you, and then when I hit that goal, I was like, these people love me. I was like, they want me to keep going. So it was an extra bit of confidence that, I don't care if I ever make a record again, I'm making it for these people because these people want it. So it was a mix of emotions.
That's awesome. And now it had been 8 years since you had released an album. So basically, before you had moved to Nashville. So when you were putting together that album, did you really find who you were as a musician had evolved because of your time in Nashville and being away from more of the Texas scene during that time?
I would think so. I went about making it same way I did this new record. I'm making this as if it's the last record I'm ever going to make. So may the best songs win. And in Texas, it's ingrained in you, like, write your songs. Everybody writes your songs. Then you come up to Nashville, you start co-writing. I'm married to a songwriter, and I hear songs all the time that I think, oh my God, why has this not been cut? And living in Nashville and not being married to a songwriter, you hear all those types of songs. And I just thought, I'm going to make a record like the ones that I grew up on. I felt like every song was incredible, and I don't care if I wrote it or not. And part of that is absolutely growth as an artist. It's saying, hey, I can write a song, but I'm going to be the messenger on this one. But I think that comes from experience, 100%. I ain't trying to prove myself. I'm trying to put the best songs out that I can.
Yeah.
I'm not grappling with that inner turmoil or whatever.
And now you mentioned being married to a songwriter. He's a producer. He's an
Yes.
artist, Brett. So talk about your journey with him. And first of all, I want to hear about your first date at Captain D's and what you remember of that date and how your relationship has evolved from there.
Okay, we actually met in Key West at the BMI Songwriters Festival.
Oh, okay.
We had common friends, and we didn't meet in the writing room, and eventually, and when we first started dating, we tried to keep that separate, just because I'm very stubborn. It's like, I don't want people thinking that I need Brett to succeed. And then I'm sure he didn't want people thinking that he didn't want to push me on anybody, but naturally our camps came together, and people don't care about it as much as we did initially,
Right. Yeah.
But we had just hung out with friends. And then, I had grown up going to Captain D's every Saturday with my family because kids ate free, and he had never been to Captain D's. And so he had a gift card, and he pulled it out. We were all at a bar, and he's like, who am I going to go to Captain? And I thought, I'll go to Captain D's with you. And so it was our first date as a joke. He ended up taking me on a normal date elsewhere, but we just started hanging out in a group and just goofing off, and then eventually got more private and actually went on normal dates. But yeah, we went to Captain D's and then we would go every year on Valentine. We haven't been in a while. But that's how we are. We're just goofy.
That's awesome. And what has it been like on this journey to see each other evolve? I mean, he's evolved into a hit songwriter with number one songs. And so what has that journey been like together to just grow as artists?
It's been incredible. It's so fun because he's getting all these opportunities, even just meeting some of the people in my camp. Like the other day, we got to write with the Bacon brothers, Kevin Bacon and Michael. And, that's because of the Show Dog connection. And David Macias, who runs 30 Tigers, has asked him to produce other projects. And then he is playing my project for people in his world who are like, man, we didn't even know Kim was capable of this, So it's just, we just both put the work in, separate and together. And I would say that's what we do. We're just hard workers. And so it's just so much fun. And we take time out to celebrate each other. He makes me stop and think about what I've accomplished, and I make him stop and think about what he's accomplished. And when my record came out, I kept saying, we put out a record, and he's going, it's your record. And I'm going, it's just as much yours as it is mine because you produced it. So it's so much fun. We just came to terms with it, that we might be stuck together in that world as well. But we're not together all the time. We don't write together all the time. So we get plenty of time apart. So we're not hating each other.
Right. Yeah. And the new album, talk about the process and when it began and your mindset before going into the creation of this album.
When I got signed, they said, we love what you just did on that Don't Blame It on Me EP. Don't change anything. So we didn't. We just went back, and I went around to all the publishers I knew. Brett went around looking for songs again. We wrote some songs, and it was myself, Brett, David Macias, and my manager. And we just went through songs and picked our favorites and just kept narrowing it down. And Brett called a lot of the same players that we'd had on the EP before, and we just had a good time. We just had a little bit more money this time. So we got to cut more songs.
Right. Yeah. And the album starts off with Honky Tonk Town. Now,
Yes.
I love the energy of this song to start off
Thank
the
you.
album. And Tyler was a co-writer on it. So
Yes.
with that song, did he go into that song writing it with you in mind, or was it finished and he just thought, oh man, this is one?
He had actually written that song with Jesse Joe Dillon and Jesse Alexander, hoping to pitch it to John Party.
Oh, okay.
And I remembered it, but not, I only remembered it when he was sitting down going through other songs for something else. And I said, Brett, I remember that song. I said, what are you doing with it? And he's like, I'm just listening back through things. And I said, I want it. Like, let's listen to it because we still need a tempo, you know?
Right.
And he said, well, it was written from the perspective of a boy. And I said, we can tweak a few lines in it. Let me listen to it. And so that's what we did. We got together with Jesse Joe and Jesse, and, you know, they tweaked it. And I was there to kind of be like, yeah, that's good. That's good. That's good. Or maybe say this. I obviously didn't need a co-write on that because I didn't co-write it. I was just helping them tweak it for me.
Right.
And then we played it for the team and they were like, this is great. It kind of has almost like a Shania vibe, a Chattahoochee vibe. They wrote it with the idea of, you know, thinking about Guitar Town, but they were like, let's write it for Honky Tonk Town.
And so throughout this album, there is the classic country vibe throughout the entire album. But I found that First Fool in Line was really the one that caught my attention, that really has that like Loretta Lynn classic country feel. And so I wanted to ask you about that song and just the first time you heard it, what you thought of it.
I was driving home from work and it made the hair on my arm stand up. It just, the melody, the lyrics, it blends so well with the music. It's just an incredibly well written song. And I got a hold of the plugger who had pitched it to me. And I said, I love this song. And he said, well, there's one thing, you know, it was cut by Don Williams. And I said, that ain't a problem. That just reiterates the fact that it's a great song, you know? So it obviously did to me what it did to you, you know, it spoke to me. It's so good.
And to wrap off the album, you have a voice message from Billy Joe on there. Now, when did that idea come? Was that later in the process that you kind of realized what was happening through this album and how it was sort of an ode to him?
Yes. We had landed on the title and then toyed with the idea of covering one of his songs. And then I thought, hey, why don't we I said, I've got some voicemails. We should just put one at the end just to reiterate the fact that I actually had a genuine relationship with him, you know? So it came later in the process.
And how special is it to have it on there?
It's incredible. There was a moment, I will say, where I kind of started second guessing it. And I thought, I don't want people to think that I'm trying to, you know, because he's passed and he can't speak about it. And I said, I don't want people to think that I'm just trying to get something off of Billy Joe. And then the people who were helping me kind of shape the package said, if people like you who knew him really well stop talking about him, eventually people will forget about people like him. And I thought, oh my gosh, you're right. You know, I don't get like, we're going with it. We're doing it. But yeah, so it just kind of naturally progressed.
Right. And now working with Steve Wariner on this record as well. I saw a post you had on Instagram when the album was coming out and he had sent you just a quote for the album and it had you in tears because of what he said about you and your album. So just talk about the dream that it is working with him.
I mean, that's the thing. You get so immersed in the process and then every now and then you step back and you think, oh my gosh, I know one of my idols at this point and he just said that about me, you know? So I mean, you just kind of have to step back and I've just been a huge fan of him for so long and we got to write with him and then we were cutting the song and then we got to go to his house and then him and Brett became best friends and we're in his home studio and he's putting guitar on it and we're in a text thread together. And it's just every now and then what I do, even with Toby Keith, you know, I'll go back and watch old footage of my heroes And I try to think somewhere in their future, I exist. And that's what blows your mind. If you look at it like that,
Right.
because if you're just spending time with them, you kind of calm yourself and get it together. But if you go back and picture them in the old days, it's like, how old was I when they were doing this? And like, somehow our paths will cross. And that's what's mind blowing.
And within this career of having amazing experiences, I saw back in January of 2015, you posted that you were in Country Weekly magazine with your sister, and that as a kid, that was the ultimate dream. That was it. And so within this career, is it important to remember what 5-year-old, 10-year-old you were dreaming about and where you are now?
Yes, I have a vision board, a dream board. That's exactly what you have to do. You have to, when you're getting text messages or emails or calls, or you're stressing out about something, you've got to think, this is what I prayed for. This is what I always wanted. And it's an old Ray Wiley Hubbard quote. He says, you got to keep your gratitude higher than your expectations. And when you think you're done and that maybe your time has passed, I think that might be easier to do. I'm just, when I got signed to my deal, I thought, I want to put out a record and I want to play the Opry. And if the chance presents itself, I would love to do a radio tour. But for sure, I want my record to come out because people get signed all the time and records get shelved. Yep. And I want to play the Opry myself. I sang harmony with others. And one of those things has already happened. My record came out. So it's like, I try to think about the things that I've always wanted and not get too caught up in all the extra stuff going on. And I think it keeps me grounded.
And within those moments, where did meeting Reba fit within those?
I mean, that's like a dream. It's not a goal. It's a dream. I mean, that was incredible. I went and played that show and only got paid for the travel, but the whole trip was priceless. I mean, when we left that day, she goes, see you back in Nashville. And I thought, you sure will. You just don't know it. And she was exactly what we expect. We went up on her RV when she was getting ready. And she said, y'all want to take a picture later? She goes, well, let's take one later when I don't have catfish in my teeth. And she had a big old hot roller in her hair. And I need to print that picture. I need to print the picture of us and Kevin Bacon. We're just going to put them on our wall so we can. And Brett has been with me with all of them, so it's neat. Obviously meeting your heroes is a dream. You can't have it as a goal. Those are dreams. Right.
Yeah. And I think one of your goals I saw back in, I believe it was like the 2012 time frame, that you had the hashtag KK50 or KK50 states.
Okay. I want before, and this is all part of my dream board. And aligning with my branding, that's what's helped me not get caught up with things is I'm like, what's the ultimate goal here? And one of the ultimate goals for me is I want to see the 50 states before
and I was wondering where you've gotten to, how many you've gotten to so far.
I don't know specifically, maybe like I ain't even to 15 yet. I should be, but I got ways to do. But here's the thing. I saw a lot when I was on the road with my sister, but you only see a parking lot.
Right. Yeah.
You don't get to see. That's kind of where this started. So my ultimate dream would be to have enough of a music career that it would be so much fun to maybe get to do some type of show and call it like cross country or like KK 50 states or something. And like almost like diners, drive-ins and dives where I get to go to these places. And I want to see the things of some of the cheesy traveling places like I've never seen the Cadillac Ranch in Texas and I should. But then what would be fun also is if I went to go get to play like a theater or on a flatbed trailer that evening for so it's music related, Right. But then just to show people like, hey, look at these places around the country that you can go to and you don't have to spend $1 million. And I'll get to meet all these people, but then also get to play music. So that's my goal. That's my dream. That's the ultimate dream. If I can get enough, kind of like, I feel like Miranda Lambert's doing a little bit of that right now. She's gone out. I read somewhere where she said that she's always off in the cold states. And so she took time off this summer and she's going out to camp and stuff in her Airstream and getting to actually explore. And I'm like, that's right about kind of like right along the lines of that. I want to travel to 50 states before I die but also get to play music at the same time. So.
Right. And now one more thing I want to ask you about your junior high scrapbook and being part of the Clay Walker fan club. And is that scrapbook still around? Do you still flip through it and see where your mind was back then?
Oh, yeah. I'm actually currently going through an old chest of things and keeping things, throwing things away, laughing a lot, getting real embarrassed. But my first crush was Randy Travis. And then I became obsessed with Clay Walker so much that in the 6th grade, there was a boy that came to school. He'd been homeschooled and he was so cute. And I ended up being his first girlfriend. And it was the Valentine's dance. And I ditched him to go to a Clay Walker concert. So that's how much I loved Clay Walker. It's funny now that I'm actually, I'm obviously not that obsessed with them anymore. Not in a creepy way. I still am a huge fan, but he doesn't need to like lock his doors or anything. It's sweet to have all those things and like old pictures of him and Patty Loveless when they were on tour together. And now I'm managed by the same manager as Patty Loveless. So it's wild that it just came full circle like that.
That's amazing. Well, the new album, I'll tell you what's going to happen. It's out now. What does the future hold? What does the rest of the summer and into the fall hold? Are there tour dates that are being planned?
Yes. I've had a bunch of what are called one-offs, which means you just kind of go play a gig here, a gig here. I'm not on a major tour because I got signed to my booking agent later in the spring, and most of those things are getting planned way in advance. And plus, nobody knew who I was yet. I'm just getting announced, But I did get a call yesterday from my manager, and I think I'm going to get some dates with an Americana-ish type of guy. I don't know if I should say it yet. I probably shouldn't, but
don't want to jinx it.
I don't know if it's a tour necessarily, but I mean, I guess it is because I think I'm going to get about 7 dates with him.
Oh, awesome.
So I'll be doing some one-offs, things like this, interviews, just press, just introducing myself to people. Yeah, that's it. Being ready when people call.
That's awesome. I find it so funny you say introducing myself after the journey we just talked about and all that you've been through. And so congratulations on finally getting announced.
Yeah, I feel like if I were at any other place in my career, I would be offended by that. But I'm like, no, I know how this goes. Hello, world. Here I am. But, in the grand scheme of things, like a lot of people still don't know who I am. So that's what's fun is meeting people. So, and you're probably never in a career. I bet Reba McEntire is still meeting people.
Yeah, exactly.
So, I mean, that's the name of the game. Let's do it.
Thank you once again so much for listening. And thank you to Kimberly for stopping by and sharing her story. Be sure to check out her sophomore album, I'll Tell You What's Gonna Happen, wherever you stream your music. Please also be sure to check out us wherever you stream your music. We're available on any streaming platform, so just head over to your favorite, search Country Music Made Me, and give us a follow and maybe even leave us a review if you enjoyed today's episode. You can also head over to our website at countrymusicmademe.com to sign up for our newsletter. There you will keep up to date on all of our upcoming guests, as well as receive exclusive content like acoustic performances from some of our past and upcoming guests. Just head over to countrymusicmademe.com and hit that subscribe button. Thank you once again so much for listening, and we'll see you next time on Country Music Made Me.